So this week I'll talk about how the Christian faith has continued to transform the world and use one example to illustrate that. As always, my notes are just below the camera, so I'll be looking at those as we go. So in our readings, Elijah was taken up into light at the end of his ministry, and Jesus became light at the start of his ministry. And then Peter tripped over his mouth. This is the last of Jesus' epiphany because Lent is next week and it's a little bit early this year. So we've skipped from Mark chapter 1 to Mark chapter 9 in the Gospels, and in the Orthodox Jewish Bible, the text says that Jesus began to change form and his clothes became dazzlingly white. So onto the Old Testament. Both kings, both books were written by Jeremiah, and in this chapter, 2 Kings chapter 2, he records the end of Elijah's life. God had called Elijah to be taken away in a whirlwind. Elijah and Elisha passed by 3 schools of prophets, all of whom they would have known. Elijah no doubt knew the schools and left some final words with the prophets. Elijah then tries to shake his disciple Elisha 3 times at each of the city town stops. We don't know why, and any thoughts about that are probably speculation about why Elijah did this. Elijah doesn't have any of it. And the reason that is given is that he wanted a blessing from Elijah. Elijah then said to Elisha that if you stay with me, you will have this difficult request. So all 3 of the schools of prophets reminded Elisha what was about to happen. Elisha agreed with them and then asks each of them to be silent. As Elijah and Elisha were walking and talking, Elijah was taken into heaven in chariots and horses of fire. Elijah was translated into heaven. Then Elisha tore his clothes in a moment of grief. Then he took up Elijah's cloak and asked, "Where is Adonai, God of Elijah?" He then struck the water as Elijah had, and the water parted. The passage is often related to 2 gospel passages. That's the transfiguration of Jesus and his ascension. And in the second reading this week, we look at the transfiguration. Elijah and Moses accompanied Jesus on Mount Tabor. Jesus was then transfigured. Jesus shone not by light shining on him, but by light shining out of him and his clothes. His glory, his relationship with his Father, his sonship is revealed. In the previous chapter, Jesus said that he would be executed and that they, his disciples, were destined to be executed as well. That is pretty gloomy news. Maybe the gloomiest news that one could ever get. Jesus' transfiguration contrasts with that gloomy news. He meets with 2 of the greatest prophets and his Father, and is transformed into light. These scriptures taken together point to the identity of the 2 men, Elijah and Jesus. God revealed his glory in physical form, and the scriptures show that his glory is increasingly manifested over time from specific people at specific times until, as the prophets remind us, his glory covers the earth as waters cover the sea. So, last week I mentioned that our baseline state is barbarism and squalor. The rule in that state is might is right. The principle of sovereignty transforms our baseline state. So, through the prophets, priests, and kings, God transforms their lives and communities and nations in which they live. And it really is stunningly miraculous how over the past 2,000 years the world has been transformed. The apostles and those who came after them took Jesus and his words to heart and have transformed the world by building schools, hospitals, universities, churches, and governments. And I'm going to share with you just one example, the effect of Christians building schools. So it was Galileo who said that reading gives us superhuman powers. Literacy is a key indicator of education and is associated with flourishing generally, and specific indicators of improvement such as health, economic, and environmental improvement. Literacy levels have improved over the last 200 years, and you can check this out on Our World in Data. In 1820, just 12% of the world's population could read. In 2014, 86% of the world's population could read. Illiteracy was 36.6% in sub-Saharan Africa in 2018. That's Statista. South Africa's education system, while it faces challenges, and despite these challenges, 94% of the population 15 years and older were classified literate in 2019, far outpacing the region's advancement towards literacy. Because Christians have taken Jesus' words to heart and lived out their faith, they continue to transform the world in their day-to-day and face-to-face interactions, and through building communities and through building nations. While we still bear our barbaric state, our sinful nature, we still, as Elijah, Elisha, Jesus, the prophets, the priests, the kings, the apostles, transform the world to reveal God's glory, finding its proper place under his Son, Jesus. Father, thank you that you continue to transform the world and reveal your glory.